Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei. I'm so excited to paint with you today as always. Today we are going to be tackling another landscape. This one was inspired by a color palette that I saw on a bag of coffee. So it's great to find things in your everyday life that are interesting, that inspire you, that make you feel good. Maybe you see a design on packaging or somewhere in nature or something like that, and use that little bit to inspire you to create something new from it. So this color palette I saw on a bag of coffee, and I sure as heck bought that bag of coffee because of the color palette. Made me feel so good. But it included lots of blues and yellows combined together, and I'll show you that on the overhead cam. But we are going to be doing a somewhat Midwestern landscape with lots of mountains and a big old moon in the background in this landscape. So let's get to it, and I'll meet you on the overhead camera. Let me also say, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. If you are a super thanks contributor, I cannot do what I do without you. So thank you so much. If you're interested in supporting through super thanks, you can just scroll under this video to the right. And you should find the little button that says thanks, and you can add your support there, as well as check out the description of this video for links to my social media, as well as all supplies and materials that we use, and my studio crew classroom as well. All right, so let's get to it and start painting. All right, here we are on the overhead camera, and we are going to get started. First things first, what the heck am I painting on? I am actually painting in a new or newish B watercolor paper sketchbook. So let me just open this up for you so you can see. This is the B Paper Company. It's 100% cotton paper, 140-pound cold press sheets, or 300 GSM. There are 30 sheets that come in this book. My local art store stocked these recently, and they came in 3 different sizes. This is an 8x8 size, which I absolutely adore. These are very affordable 100% cotton papers. So normally I buy the B paper in 6x9 sheets in packs of 50. I had a little trouble finding them in the last couple of years. They're out of stock a lot, but when I saw these in my local art store, I said, yes, please, I will take some of those. So you need a pencil, an eraser. I have my kneaded eraser here. We're going to draw out our landscape. We're going to do a bunch of stacked mountains. We're going to add in some trees. We're going to have a big moon in the background. And it's going to be a lot of fun. The color palette we're going to be using, I'm really excited about. I really love this particular color palette together. And then brushes, whatever medium size round brush you have will work just fine for this, for the whole thing. So I'll probably be using a size 8. I'll pull in my silver black velvet or my Princeton Select or Aqua Elite brush, right around a size 8. So let's start by creating our composition here. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of stacked mountains, and going for that kind of Pacific Northwest vibe. So I'm just going to put one mountain range. There's no outline for this. I'm not going to do an outline for this because you can really kind of make it your own. I want these to be more jagged and rocky than the folk art inspired kind of rounded hill landscapes that I have been doing. So that's kind of the look and feel I'm going for. So a couple there. I'm going to do another one that kind of cuts almost straight across. So I have this straight across, angle, another straight across. And then I'm going to put another small one here, not quite all the way over. And then I'm going to do one of these big, like behemoth rock formations in the corner. And then I'm going to balance that out. Is this what I want? Do I want to put another one here? Maybe I'll cut this one here like this. That's a lot, but That's okay. You can do as few or as many of these stacked kind of mountain ranges as you'd like. I'm going to be adding trees in later. So I'm going to have trees definitely on like this level here, probably a couple here, maybe one or two here. They'll get smaller as they go further back. And then maybe like two or three or four, like a grouping way back here. So I'm going to put some pines throughout this landscape. Now a moon, we could do a rising moon kind of over. Let's do a rising moon or like a moon in the corner. Let's do a rising moon. My handy dandy moon shaped tape roll. All my moons are the same size as the center of my tape roll. Unless I do a teeny tiny one, then it's the size of my Dr. P.H. Martin jar. I'm just going to erase a lot of that line for the moon because I do want that to be bright and white, and I don't want that pencil line to distract. All right, so that is our landscape. That's all you have to do. You don't even have to put in the lines for trees. You can do those later, but I just wanted you, maybe we'll do two like way up here in the front. I just wanted you to kind of see where I was going with those. All right, so we have some colors that we're going to play with here. And I already have them out in my palette a little bit. So I have this aqua, Cobalt Teal is the name of the color in Core, but you can find it as aqua or other versions of teal in other brands. Might have another word or name in front of it. I also have my raw Sienna. You could also use like a yellow ochre, would be very pretty combination. So this combination, I really love these two colors together. It seems like calm and soothing. And I actually associate this more with like beach, like sand and water, but I'm going to be applying it to a mountainscape. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. And then I'm also going to introduce this indigo color, which is a dark navy blue, to create some contrast in this piece. So we have these three colors here. And then, of course, we will introduce some bleed-proof white in the end for some fine details. And we're going to get started. All right, so some of my other colors are also a little lighter on the light side. So I'm going to lighten up these pencil lines just a little bit. Now, another thing you could do with this type of design, and maybe I'll do this again, but with this other technique. So watercolors are transparent, so layering on top. So when we do the trees, I have to really think strategically that whatever goes on top is going to be affected by what's underneath it. You know, if I do them all in bleed-proof white, that's fine. If I do them all in indigo, fine as well, because it's the darkest color. You're not really going to see the other colors through it too much. But if I wanted to layer like a lighter color tree that wasn't bleed-proof white on top, I'm either going to have to leave that space blank and paint around it, and then put my tree in second, or put the trees in first and then paint around them, which will be very difficult in these tight spaces, or getting outside of watercolor and using acrylics, or I think gouache. So maybe I'll retry this piece in gouache as well. Let me know what you think if you'd like to see it done in a different medium. Maybe I'll combine gouache and watercolor. Maybe I'll do the moon and the sky in watercolor and the mountains in gouache or something like that. We'll see what we get. All right, so first and foremost, let's put in our sky. Now, I've gone back and forth on this, on what I want, what color. Do I want to do the sky like this funky, like the yellow color, or do I want to keep it dark and a little more traditional? I decided I'm going to go a little more traditional with the indigo. So we have our moon around here. This piece is going to require a lot of drying time between layers, or between sections, so that they're not touching each other. But I'm just going to put in the sky first and just painting around my moon, I'm not going to worry about it being super, super dark. I am using this darker color, but I don't need it to be like super nighttime dark. I'm going to let it just, I'm going to add water. You do want to work quickly. Can you see there? I have this hard line, and my only course of action now is to actually add more paint over that section because I let it dry a little too quickly. Getting all in this area here around the moon, and I want everything by the time I'm kind of done to be a similar dampness so it all dries at the same time. So going back over, kind of re-wetting this area. Now I'm going to drop in some additional color, the darker indigo color around the corners here, creating like a little bit of a vignetting or a lightning around the moon. So just a little, and I do want to blend it in well. I want it to be subtle. It is wet on wet, so it'll continue to blend a little bit, but I don't want it to be like a harsh line around the moon. I want it to blend well. Okay, so there we go. That's our sky. We're going to let everything up here, leave that alone, and we'll start to work on the bottom areas before we have to take our first break. So you do want to plan out your colors so that way, depending on which colors you're using and the combinations, that you don't have two pieces kind of overlapping each other or touching each other at the same time. So I want these pieces to be certainly yellow or aqua because they're touching the sky. This could be our indigo color, and then we could go back into a yellow or aqua, and then it's going to have to be like indigo and whatever I didn't use here, and kind of working our way down. So starting in this area, figuring out, okay, these I'm going to do yellow, so I'm going to do indigo here and aqua here. All right, so sticking with the indigo, we'll just get right into that. So just try to plan out your colors before you go to the next. And I'm not going to make this a perfect flat wash. I'm going to let it be, have some of the characteristics of watercolor. It's going to be a little darker in some spots and a little lighter in others. By adding just a little more water or a little more paint and letting it have kind of a texture. There we go. All right, I'm going to leave that and let that dry. So if these are going to be yellow, indigo, this is going to be aqua, this is going to have to be yellow, or this whole thing is going to be aqua. So these can be yellow and indigo. So let's do, I'm going to do this one, this dark indigo color. And if you get halfway through and you realize like you've messed up, you might have to create another section just on the fly between two colors. It's totally okay. When you're doing something like this, you get to decide how many sections you want, and it's totally fine. And if you go outside your lines a little bit, that's fine as well. Just change the shape. Like I just went outside the line here, so I just changed the shape of the area. There we go, same thing, dropping in some more color, not worrying about it being a perfect wash, but letting it have some of this watercolor texture. I'm just going to pull out, I have a little extra too much water in here. All right, so we're going to have yellow, aqua, yellow, and aqua. So we're going to let this dry, and then we'll come back and start to add in those other colors. All right, now that those are dry, we're going to start on our other colors, and I can definitely tackle We can do our yellows here and here, and now the yellow I'm using is a raw sienna. You could also use, which are very similar, depending on the brand, but a yellow ochre or a Naples yellow, kind of give you this earth toned, earthy yellow, kind of orangey yellow, goldish, desaturated, beautiful color. So I'm going to start over here. And again, leaving some room for texture. I'll work right around our moon there. Dropping in some more color and some more water. There we go. And we're going to do the other side. And then we decided this would be that aqua color and this would have to be the yellow. And now I love this navy and yellow combination as well. Another great kind of color palette combination. They're very contrasted to each other, but I'm also gonna really love when I drop in that aqua cobalt teal color. There we go. All right, so we're gonna have to let those dry again before we drop in that final color to give us our kind of our pow wow factor. And then we're gonna start to layer in some with bleed proof white as well as the indigo color, some trees throughout our landscape. So let's tackle our moon while we wait. Actually, I'm gonna dry this section a little bit, then we'll tackle our moon, let the rest of this dry, and go into our cobalt teal. All right, so I'm just going to layer down some water on our moon. We're going to do wet on wet. And I am actually leaving some of the edges. I'm going to go right down here, but the top edge, I'm leaving no water on it. I'm going to let that be pure white and not let the any of the color that I drop in to affect it. I'm going to take my indigo and I'm going to water it way down. You could also use a Payne's gray if you wanted to. You could play with a combination of the indigo and the raw sienna or Naples yellow that you might be using to give it a little bit of a color, but I am just going to start to drop color into the bottom here. And you can go as dark as you want with these little craters. But just remember, when you start to drop in the color, whatever you have on your palette, so if you're expecting it to be this color when it dries, it's going to be slightly lighter when you're dropping it into water. And I've just dropped randomly this little chunk of watercolor down here that's going to spread. So you know what? I'm going to make my own little extra mountain down here at the bottom. So there's going to be another little yellow mountain that we have to let dry, and we'll put the teal in between the two. There we go. All right, so I'm happy with that for my moon. Look at this. I picked up this random piece of watercolor. I don't know where it came from. It must have come from the top of twisting off a tube. I'm going to wash my hands and then we'll go let all of this dry and start on our last color. All right, last but not least, I'm going to pick up this cobalt teal color. Let's move this around. And we are going to paint in . Now, if any of these areas after you've painted them once, you feel like they're just not smooth enough for you or dark enough for you, you can always add additional layers. That is completely up to you. I try to get things done in one layer, at least on these recordings, just so you don't have to watch multiple layers take place. It can be a little mind-numbing when you're not the one painting. I'm going to drop in some extra color in just a few areas here. There we go. And then I'm going to go to the bottom. So again, letting that texture of, letting watercolor be watercolor. Then just being careful around the edges with the yellow, trying not to let them overlap too much, just because these are both, you know, this is a very transparent color, and yellow and blue do make green, so as they overlap, they'll kind of make another color. So trying to be mindful around the edges. And creating that somewhat uniform dampness so everything dries all at the same time. Dropping in some additional color. There we go. All right, I think we're good. We're gonna let that all dry and then add in some layers of trees. All right, we're back. Now we have to do our trees. Now this is where we start to add lots of texture and really bring the whole piece together. And again, like I said earlier, if you want to add other layers, you want to make your sky darker, if you want to add more texture, or just generally more color to any of these areas, saturate them more, go for it. You can definitely do that. Now I'm going to use two colors. I'm going to use Dr. Peach Martin's Bleed Proof White. So this is going to be a white opaque color, and then I'm going to use my indigo to create just some pines. I think I'm going to do all pines, and my pines are going to be this shape. They're going to be upward facing branches. So I'm going to use the tip of my brush to create the edges, and they're going to really be kind of in silhouette. I'm not doing a very good job demonstrating here, but the center is going to be pretty solid, and then the edges are going to have just the shape of the branches kind of poking out. Okay, and the what was I going to say? I don't remember. But anyway, this is the shape. Oh, they're all going to be facing upward. So all of them are going to have upward facing branches versus ones that maybe go across like this or have downward facing branches. Okay, so let's get that started. And I'm going to do those in white and in this dark indigo color. So I'm going to start with some down front here. And this can be pretty tedious, so I'm going to, in the video editing, I'm going to speed this up and kind of work my way through. But this, take your time, go slow. Don't feel like you have to rush through your trees. They are narrower at the top, okay? And they get volume as you go towards the bottom. You can still leave them very thin. Like you can have a thin tree that doesn't get super wide at the bottom. That's totally fine. but generally it'll be a little bit wider at the top. And I'm going to put another dark one here. So we're going to do two next to each other. But I'll probably put a white one somewhere over here in this cluster as well. There we go. All right, so we have two down front. And again, I really want the centers of these to be filled in. I don't want any gaps or white space. It's just the style I'm going for. Okay, so now we are going to move on to some other areas. And I drew lines on here, but I can't see them anymore. All right, I'm going to put some darker ones back here. And I'm going to do all my dark ones first at the same time. And then I'm going to go in and add my lighter white ones with the bleed proof white. So all right, there we go. Oh, I'm going to do one between here. This one is still not dry. It's like taking its dear old time. But that's okay. Just going to work around it. So white trees always like add a sense of mystical, magical kind of feeling to me, whether it's you're putting in birch trees or these like white pines. There we are. All right, let's take off our tape and see what we got. I'm going to speed this up a little bit, and the trick is, so bee paper is different than other, all papers are different. So it's good to know your paper. I know bee paper is a little sensitive to masking tape, and I have put on like tried and true traditional masking tape that is super tacky, not a painter's tape or like an artist's tape. This is just masking tape. So I know it's not going to be kind to this bee paper, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my heat tool. I'm going to heat up this whole thing while also drying it. And as I heat the adhesive on here, it's going to make this tape really easy to peel off. So I'm going to do that now, but I'm going to speed this up so you don't have to listen to the dryer and watch me do the whole thing. All right, and there we are, finally finished with this wonderful landscape, this mountainous Pacific Northwest landscape. I really love this. I love the color combination and this style. Super easy. You can definitely do this. Once again, thank you for painting with me. I'm Sienna Searcy. I always enjoy painting with you. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel if you are enjoying my paintings. And check out the description for some other information, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for painting with me. Bye.